Hello and welcome to the Young Film Academy podcast, the essential podcast for teenagers looking to make their way into the creative industries. I am your host, Dan Allen, and I am joined by a very special guest host this week by Duke.
Hello,
Duke. How's it going?
Pretty good, man.
Duke is an actor, writer, storyteller, magician.
For my kids, I do very, very, very basic magic tricks.
Oh, amazing! I want to see some of them. I want to see the because cinema's magic. So
yes, it is. Yeah,
we're all kind of magicians in our own way on this podcast. But I want to see your magic, which sounds much more impressive. Truth be told, are we talking card tricks? Or what are we talking?
There used to be card tricks. I forget them now because I'm getting older and I don't remember them. I have to relearn them.
My dad had this magic trick where he would show me this small sponge that came in the magic set, and he'd put it behind his back, and then when he brought it back around the front, he'd have two sponges, and and we kept being like, "How do you do it? How do you do it?" And he told us, he said, well, "I'll tell you when you're older. I'll tell you when you're older." And literally, I think it was like we remembered it 10 years on, and we're like, "Dad, how did you turn one sponge into two?" And he goes, "Oh," and he starts laughing, and he goes, "I'll just rip the sponge in half." And we were obviously too young to notice that the sponge was getting smaller by 50%
every time he did the trick.
Every time. But anyway, talking of the magic of filmmaking, we are joined by a wonderful guest this week. This is Marc Coleman. He's an indie horror comedy filmmaker, and he has just made a new film called Manfish, which just premiered. No, sorry, that was his first film.
That was a few years ago.
Members Club. Which just premiered at Fright Fest, which is amazing. And we're going to talk to him about how you go from small budget to bigger budget and what that sort of step is like to suddenly have to make a film with no money versus a film with money. So yeah, we can't wait to hear all about it. So without any further ado, welcome to the podcast, Marc. How's it going?
All good, thank you. All good.
So Marc, when you did the YFA podcast, how long ago was that?
I don't know, man. I think it was in lockdown because I think that's where it was started in lockdown.
That's where
I want to say.
It feels like that's when a lot of 2020.
A lot of podcasts.
Yeah, a lot of podcasts are in lockdown.
Dan would tell me otherwise, but
I think so. Well, it definitely wasn't when it aired because originally it was meant as this pilot, so we weren't even sure if it was going to air. But I think it was in that episode that we found the format and the formula of what we liked that worked well. So we ended up being aired at some point. This is when it's going to turn out that it only released like 3 weeks ago, and then we're like, "Oh, sorry, Marc, we're actually going to have to
we're going to have to put this off for 2 years."
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was great, man. It was really great. I think last time you just made Manfish, which was obviously your first feature, which I believe you self-financed that for was it like a 10K film, 15K film or something?
It was a 15-ish K film.
Yeah. I mean, I know we already talked about that last time, so we won't go into necessarily the how on earth you do that. But this time, obviously, your new film is Members Club. For those that obviously do want to know how you make a film for 15K, do go and listen to the last episode. If it's not out, it will be out within shortly after this one.
real quick, Dan, for those who did not listen to it, real quick. So it's 15K for how many days of shooting?
Oh, yeah. How do you
that's a good question. And I also think that maybe we didn't talk that much about it before because I have a feeling that when we recorded before, I hadn't sold it yet. So I wasn't really allowed to talk about the budget.
Interesting.
Whereas now I can kind of disclose all of that juicy information. How many days? I think it was about 13 days over the course of a few weeks.
Wow. And was that just over the week, shooting over weekends or like 3 day weeks?
It was like 3-4 day weeks. Yeah. 3 to 4 day weeks. And, and I think originally the budget was 10K because I'd listened to a few different podcasts and read a few books about the kind of golden 10K feature. And I think we did make it for 10K. And then the other 5K just kind of got eaten up in post-production when we wanted to put it into film festivals and we wanted a bit more. There was some VFX cleanup that needed to be done. So ultimately you just find yourself spending a little bit more money. and trying your best not to tell your partner.
Because that was going to be my next question. Was the 15K just for the shooting from like day one to wrap? But it was 10K for day one to wrap, and then another 5K for any kind of cleaning up and submitting to festivals until you sold it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So 10K originally. Yeah. Which was kind of money that I'd saved that I was, I probably should have spent on a mortgage or whatever. But I kept coming up time and time again, various different barriers when I would go and send feature film scripts off to people because I hadn't made a feature film before. People wouldn't necessarily take you seriously, even though you had written a feature film that you would like to make. As much as they might like the script, they usually say to you, well, you haven't made a feature film before, so why should we trust you with any money? So then the kind of conclusion came that I'm going to have to sort of make my own feature and use that as a write-off. So, never plan to make any money from it whatsoever. But what it does do is it becomes a calling card that then I can use to try and make other films and scripts, which thankfully it did work.
Because that's cheaper than film. Go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say, that seems to be the thing now. It's almost like you either have to wait for the BFI to choose you, like the claw in not Star Wars, Toy Story, when all those Toy aliens Story, yeah. in the thing are like the claw, and you sort of wait for the BFI to pull you out and be like, "It's a filmmaker, we found one," or you have to sort of do it yourself in a way. There doesn't feel like there's much middle ground in the UK.
Yes, and exactly that, and one piece of kind of information I keep sort of passing on to young people in particular now when I'm teaching and making films with teenagers and is that short films are great and they're a great stomping ground, but ultimately nobody really cares about short films to a certain extent. And you're exactly right when you say that if you're really, really lucky and you get to make a sort of BFI funded short film, then that's brilliant. That will do wonders for your career. But ultimately you can make short films and you can send them off to festivals and they may win a few awards, and all of that is really, really good. And it's a great learning lesson. And I'm not trying to put anyone off from making shorts, because I wouldn't have been able to make any feature that I've made without making shorts. But ultimately they have a shelf life for so long, and only so many people will see them until people can take you just a bit more seriously, unfortunately, by making a feature. It's a tough pill to swallow, and it took me a few years to learn it. But once I kind of got it, then I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. Yeah. So you have to go out and make your feature film if you want to make feature films for people.
Yes. I suppose it's now the barrier of requirements, the barrier for entry is almost like lower in terms of what it takes to make something. The barrier then becomes much higher to prove yourself. So it's almost a knock-on effect of the result of the democratization of filmmaking, which is great because it means everyone can make films. But the terrible news is, oh my God, everyone can make films. Whereas it used to take quite a sheer bit of will to find a camera for one, and to source to pull together actors pre-internet. It used to be a monumental achievement if you've managed to make a short film that people would take you seriously as a filmmaker. Whereas nowadays, because it's easier to sort of show people what you've got, but also it's so much harder to get seen for what you've got, and it just makes it how do you then put your head above everyone else? And ultimately the answer is, well, you've got to make your own film, your own feature film.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, everyone can make a short film. I guess anyone can make a short film. Whether or not it's good or not is a different story. But not everyone can make a feature film, and it is the same process. Like, there's not a huge amount of difference. The only difference is money and time. Really, it's the same. You're doing the same things. You're working with the same team. You're shooting the same scenes. You're trying to achieve the same goal. The only difference is, one film is 10 minutes and one film is 90 minutes, and it just requires more time and energy. And Do
you find when you first went up to feature, were you less precious about every second of that feature, or were you more precious about it? Do you know what I mean? Because I find sometimes when you've got like a 3-minute film, it's like every frame like really matters, and you want to have that same meticulous care, but obviously your time per minute that you have to actually get something made feels significantly shorter on a feature. So I wondered how you sort of make that transition.
Yeah, it's true. It is very difficult because you're right. You're constantly up against the clock as well. And we shot an 85-minute film, what became an 85-minute film in kind of 13 days. I think there was maybe a half-day pickup in there somewhere. So what that means is you're getting through lots and lots and lots of pages in a very short amount of time. So it was a very small crew, very small team. So you have to choose your battles. You have to really kind of choose. And lots of the times those battles are performances. You want to get the performances right. But I come from a theatre background anyway, so I kind of always, I don't ever really do anything without rehearsals. So I have not a long rehearsal, longer the better, but not a huge amount of rehearsals. But and particularly with comedy as well, we try and, in rehearsals, pull all of those gags out in rehearsals. And so it means that when we have to move extremely fast on set, and we have to get through so many different pages, we've already rehearsed the gags. We know what they're like. So we might need to tweak on the day, but it allows us to get through much more than needs be. So yeah, I don't think you can be too precious. And particularly the way that we did it as well, which was like, very bare bones. It was 10, 15K feature shot over 13 days, really a crew of 4 to 5 people, a cast of 3 to 4 people. So you've got to move fast. You don't have much time. So yeah, you can't be too precious. I think if you are too precious, then you'll start to stumble, and the worry is you might not get there in time. But you're right. You do that on shorts, right? You do over every single frame. You want it to look as good as possible. And of course you want to be able to do that on a feature, but just time just doesn't always allow it. So you just have to choose your battles.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was going to be my question. When you said a bare bones crew, and you said it's a crew of 4, is that including you? Because you're going to have a sound guy, a cinematographer, you as the director. So that's 3 right there. A PA of some sort, I guess.
No, I don't think there was any PA. We had, I think it was me as a director. Then it was a cinematographer, maybe a first AC, first assistant camera, a soundy, a first AD, and then occasionally we would have like a gaffer doing lights and stuff for us, but ultimately that was usually done by the cinematographer. And I was the director, I was the writer, I was the prop maker, the sandwich maker, the lift giver. That's what you kind of have to do if you want to be able to make that type of film. Like I remember being up like at 2 a.m. one night in a travel lodge on a double bed. I had like 6 or 7 different lunch bags. I had these kind of plastic bags laid out on the bed because I'd been to Tesco's to get all of the food for the next day. And I was putting these like food bags together for everyone. Like I was so tired. We'd been shooting for like 10 days by that point. And we were out on location at a seaside. And I was just like, what am I doing? But that was all part of it, that you want to make everyone lunch, because the none of that money, no one was paid as well. So it's all friends. Thankfully, lots of my friends work in film, and I used to be an actor, so lots of my friends are actors. So it's pulling in lots and lots and lots of favors. And the best thing you can do is just make sure that people are comfortable.
You also forgot to mention, I believe you were the eyeball retriever as well on Manfish.
I was the eyeball retriever. Some eyeballs about a creature mask kind of floated off into the sea. And I had to go into the sea to try and retrieve the eyeballs at like 7 a.m, whilst like a cast and crew of sort of 10 just stood on the beach and watched me clamber into the sea, like the creature from the Black Lagoon, which is the film that we were kind of riffing on, in my boxers, and didn't get them. They floated away. But thankfully, our lovely, lovely mask maker who created the mask, Steve Braund, didn't live a huge way away. So our producer, Gav, kind of called him up, and he made us some eyeballs in record time, thankfully. So it put us back. I think it put us back by about half a day. But what it did mean is that the person who was playing Manfish, who the eyeballs belonged to, he couldn't do the extra shoot day. So then we had to do like a half day pickup where I had to dress up as Manfish in the Manfish suit and go back into the sea, this time dressed as a sea creature, and recreate the shots as best as I could. And then they made it into the film as well. So it's kind of like a bittersweet story in the end, when I can kind of watch it back and be like, that's me.
Yeah. So it shows you had a lot of skin in the game.
And a lot of skin in the
Yeah.
game. Yeah, a lot of skin in the game.
So is that's where obviously the budget goes on that sort of, on a 15K film, you can't really afford to pay everyone fully. It's more like food and obviously the key practical things that you need, like locations, and obviously for a film like Manfish, you need the manfish, so it's getting that mask made, I assume, as well. How does could you just give us an idea of how sort of the money divides up to make that sort of film?
Yeah, it's a good question. If I had the budget, I've probably got the budget somewhere, but most of that is down to my producing partner Gav, who I've worked with on 2 films now, who's really good. And he had I think he had made a feature before that, but I kind of went to him and said, look, this is how much I have, can you do it? And he made it work. But I have a feeling that the most of the money went to places like kit hire. So all of the camera and the lights, some of it went there. The soundy came with their own equipment, so I think maybe we had to pay for the sound. We didn't pay for the soundy, but we paid for their equipment, and then the rest of the money went on locations. But the majority of the locations we got for free, and if we didn't get them for free, we got them for extremely cheap.
Yeah,
and then the rest of the money would have gone on like insurance and paying people's travel expenses. Because if you can't pay anyone, the best thing you can do is just make sure that they're comfortable, so that you're at least paying their travel expenses, you're feeding them 3 meals a day, and you're buying them coffees and whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. So if you can do all of that, then the actor is turning up and they're not out of pocket, and they're kind of here along for the ride.
Yeah, amazing. And then obviously that goes into post and stuff, and then you got to distribute the film, which normally, I mean, you hear sometimes on like the big, really expensive ones, like your Nolan films, they spend as much as the budget on sort of promoting the film and getting it out there. But obviously on a film where, you don't have all those resources, what does distributing a film and selling the film look like on a film of that scale?
Can you hear my door? Yeah. Can you hear my door?
As again, we've got some construction works going nearby. I'm sure that
is that the oldest or the youngest crying? The older one, right?
That's the oldest crying.
Yeah, it sounds like an older kid.
He's going to be daddy for a moment.
Let me pop in. Hold on 1 second. Can I pause this?
We'll cut it out.
Yeah.
I'll cut it out.
We'll keep talking. Right. We'll come up with some gems.
Let me go and bloody sort.
It might be good to know how much he thinks he spent on the costume, because that's a really good costume for a 15K movie.
Yeah. Sorry, no, I'm very aware. I'm sort of I was slightly glossing over things a little bit, just so we have time to get to the
exactly
film as well.
Members Club. Hey, doing my Members Club dance. Welcome to the club. Are you a member? You are now. Hey.
I remember.
Sorry, guys.
No, not at all. How did you tell her to pull it together?
Yeah.
Daddy's busy. Sort yourself
busy. Out. Yeah. Daddy's doing a podcast.
Talking about a 3-year-old movie.
What was you was just asking me a question, Dan?
Yeah, distributing, selling the film.
It was to do with distribution.
Yeah. And were there any big lessons that you took away from that? Basically, I was saying to Duke as well, I'm like glossing over things a little bit so we can get to the new film as well within time.
Yeah. Sure, man. That's fine. So where do we need to pick it up from? Just what distribution?
Yeah, go for it.
So the way we got the film distributed was that we took it to we got very lucky and we got it into a few film festivals, and then at film festivals, that's where usually the people that run the film festivals are very supportive of your film and they want the best to come from it. And lots of the times they have distributors and sales agents attached to the film festivals as well. And we got into a horror festival called Horror on Sea, which was in I think it was January 2022, and off of the back of that, we got a really good response. And then off of the back of that, the promoter of the film festival sent our film to a distributor, to a sales agent, and then that sales agent liked the film, took it on, and then managed to get a distributor for us.
That's amazing. And then is it just about? And then do they take the film and they they sell it to different territories, like to UK and America, and then Europe. Is that sort of the idea?
Yes. So the deal that we got was that the sales agent would look after the UK and the USA, which means that the sales agent, their job is to find a distributor for the film, and then that distributor will then distribute it in those territories, i.e. UK and USA. So he only ever looked after UK and USA, and he got it to a distributor who then got it onto Sky and Amazon and Shudder, and I think a few other sort of smaller places in America. But it got us quite a bit of exposure, and ultimately it got us lots of reviews, and so yeah, and that's kind of how we got the new project, I suppose, just off of the back of that process.
Which, to be honest, like that was the mission, right? The mission was to make a film so that someone would give you money to make a film, and it feels like that was almost like goal number one, and you were incredibly successful in doing that.
Yes, I mean, let's be clear, and this could easily be a whole other podcast, to be honest. Yeah. But we didn't get the greatest deal, and we've never really seen a penny from the film.
Sure.
So the good thing was that I went into making Manfish, knowing that I was upset that I didn't see any money, because ultimately the money that we was hoping that we would see from the sale of the film, that would then go back to cast and crew. So everyone we signed people on as another favour as well. We signed them on that they would recoup a piece of the pie if the film managed to make its money back, and it was made for so little money as well. But unfortunately, we didn't get the greatest deal. We got a pretty bad deal in hindsight. But what the deal did do, ultimately, is that it did get it onto those platforms, and it did kind of solidify us, I guess, as actual filmmakers who can take a script, they can go and shoot it, and they can get it out there and onto streaming platforms. And thankfully, the majority of the reviews were all pretty positive as well, which, all looks good on paper if you're trying to then get somebody else to fund your next feature film.
Absolutely. So with that, were there any big lessons that you would take away that you're like, okay, I definitely would do that and that differently? I appreciate we could do an entire podcast on it. But if there's any sort of things that people could generally look out for?
One thing that I would do is get an entertainment lawyer to look after your I couldn't afford an entertainment lawyer. Remember, all of this money is just coming from my own personal pocket. Another thing that I had to deal with as well was something called deliverables, which again we could do a whole podcast on, which for anyone who doesn't know is all of the different types of file sizes and files that the distributors need when you deliver your film. So it's not as simple as giving them an MP4. They need hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bits and bobs that you have to deliver, and it takes weeks and weeks and weeks. Yeah. Subtitles, it's promotional pictures, it's everything. And usually you have a team of people doing that for you, and you pay people money to go and make you subtitles and do all the thing. But unfortunately, we didn't have the luxury of that. So I had to do all of it myself. I had to learn how to deliver a film and then basically deliver it all myself, build my own subtitles. And this was a few years ago when subtitles are much easier now with AI and all of those things. So part of that process was that I'd read in quite a few places that you should always get an entertainment lawyer on board to kind of look over those contracts for you, because the chances are the sales agents are trying to do you over, particularly when you're a small fish as well. They will try and do you over. And I'd read and listened to all of the podcasts, read all the books about sales and distribution. And in hindsight, Gav, the producer, and I still, we do look back now and be like, oh, I think we did get hoodwinked by them. And it all seemed rosy at the time. And remember, part of it is rosy. We got it onto platforms, right? We got it onto Sky. It's on Amazon. It's on Shudder. So that is a good thing. But from a financial point of view, it was pretty dire, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't go into it for financial gain. Filmmaking is a business. It does has to make money, but I get that. But this was a personal project that I was trying to get off the ground that was going to be a springboard into my next film. So it did all of those things, which I'm super, super proud of the entire team to be able to get us to where we did.
And when it springboarded you into Members Club, did you already have an idea for Members Club, and how long did it take to get Members Club off the ground?
We got really, really lucky with Members Club. So Members Club is the second feature film that I wrote, and I'd started writing it, I think, during when Manfish was on the festival circuit. I'd already started to write it, and it always happens that you go onto the festival circuit, you've just finished one film, and you have to do Q&As and stuff, and they always say, "So what's next?" And you're like, "Give me a break, man. I'm close to dying. This is taking it all out of me." So you have to talk about your new project. So I started to talk about this project, and because I was talking about it, I was like, well, I'm going to have to make it now. And it was a project that I was really excited about. So I started to write it, and it took maybe a year to write. And it all kind of comes back to our producer, really, Gav, who was working for a production company at the time. He had just been producing another feature film for them, and Gav pitched them the idea for the film, and they were looking for a new feature film to make. They liked Gav, they liked me, they liked the idea of the film. We had already had some sculptures made of what our creature would look like, so we were able to show them. So we put together a pitch deck, and we went in there and we spoke to the guys, and they were just really, really lovely, really supportive of the film. And it's a very funny, it's a very silly, weird film. And I feel like without those guys on board, it would have been the type of film that we would have taken around to all various different production companies, and they would have been like, "So it's about what? You want to do what with it?" So they were really supportive from the off. And they was like, "Yeah, go and make it. We're just getting into making feature films as well. We understand the money side of things, so we will look after all of the financial stuff. You guys just need to look after the creative stuff." I mean, as a filmmaker, to hear that's the dream, right? That's what you always want. Now, bearing in mind, we're not talking lots and lots of money here, but it was a huge budget increase from what Manfish was, and it meant that we were able to have a cast and a crew. And not just, I wasn't in the Travelodge making sandwich bags for people, putting Dairy Dunkers in the bags at 2 a.m. Yeah. It was a little bit more high level than that.
With that new film, did you know what the budget needed to be, and did you have to grow or shrink the film to fit the opportunity you had to work with these guys? How does that work?
No. Luckily we were able to grow, which again doesn't always happen, because we assumed that we were just going to make another Manfish. So we assumed we'd made like a 15k film, and me and Gav would have wild conversation, be like, "Look, what about if we do an Indiegogo and we try and get 50k this time, or we try and get 60k, and it means that we can give a little bit of money to everyone for their time, and then it means that we can put more money on screen," because that's what you're always trying to do. Is you're always trying to put the money where you can, put it on screen so people can see it, and that means whether that be some sort of visual effects shot or some practical head explosion, whatever it may be, you're trying to put the money on screen. You're also trying to look after people, of course, but when you're making films at this budget, sometimes you can't financially do that. It was a hobby, essentially. So we just assumed that we would be making this film, a new film, Members Club, for maybe double the money of what Manfish was made for, maybe 50k if we could scrape the money together. And then thankfully these guys come in and they gave us a budget which was a lot more than what Manfish was. And so what that meant was we were able to pay people properly, and we were able to get certain people on board that we would never have been able to get on board before. For instance, a key role that we got on board was a casting director. So by hiring a casting director, that casting director was then able to take the script out to other actors that we would never have been able to speak to without going through their agents. And we were able to speak to those actors and get them in the audition room and get them interested. And that became such a... And remember, we're always talking about the film as a film business, right? So by getting sort of notable stars in the film, that makes the sale at the other end much easier, because people recognize those, as you do when you watch a film, who's in it. Oh, if so-and-so's in it, I'll watch it,
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And it has some pretty cool people, pretty cool cameos as well. Can you tell us about some of those cameos?
Yes, we got really, really lucky. Yes, Janice, our casting director, was absolutely fantastic. And again, because we had a bit of money, we was able to do silly things. We were able to get people on board. I very luckily got to work with actors who I'd grown up watching on TV for many years. Perry Benson being one of them, who was an actor who was in a comedy show called Operation Good Guys when I was growing up, and that was one of the reasons I got into comedy. Steve Oram, who has been in many of Ben Wheatley's films, who's a huge inspiration to me. Steve Oram played one of our characters. He's been in Sightseers and Paddington and The World's End, and various different films. Juliette Cowan, has been on various different TV shows for years. She's fantastic. So we managed to get all of these brilliant people on board, which helped leverage a film. And the golden boy that we always like to talk about is we managed to get Peter Andre, who is a 90s pop star / reality TV show entertainer, just the loveliest man.
Yeah.
And we managed to kind of get him into a scene because he's become an actor over the years, and he's a pretty good actor. And he very kindly came and played a kind of, not a heightened version of him. He played a sort of Greek god ghost type figure called Adonis, and he was fantastic. And you can you have to be in a certain age group sometimes, I think, to know Peter Andre or know him for what he is, which is a singer songwriter. So when I'm talking to normal people or friends or family, I can talk about all these brilliant actors that I've loved for many, many years. And people go, okay, yeah, I think I know who that person is. And then you mention Peter Andre and they go, what? Peter Andre? Because he's a superstar. He's like a global superstar. Yeah. And has been for many years. And just is the loveliest man and a lovely talent. And he very kindly gave up his time for a day, and he appears in a sort of key scene in the film. Mm-hmm. And he got a good cheer when we recently premiered the film in London, and he got a big old cheer as he sort of came on screen and stuff, because sort of word had spread that he was in the film, and lots of people were interested to see why.
Yeah. No, it got some good press and stuff I saw, like leading up to the Fright Fest premiere, which was really cool. I wondered on that sort of like that first day on set of Members Club, was there anything that struck you about it feeling different? What was different and what was maybe similar compared to, say, being on set for Members Club?
There were people walking around, and I didn't know what their jobs were. I come from paying this person. What they do? Who's that guy? Who's that guy making sandwich bags for everyone? I come from a very kind of indie filmmaking background, right? So the only sets I've ever been on are kind of filmmaker friends. So I'd gone from a kind of having a crew of sort of 3 to 4 people to having a crew of sort of 20 to 25 on a busy day. So I still remember that first day we were shooting in a theatre. We were doing some backstage stuff. And I remember kind of people walking around and just kind of speaking to people and sort of trying to quietly ask them what their job was without just looking like a complete amateur and not knowing what it was that I was doing. But I think ultimately the situation was the same. Once we had got the camera rolling, and once I'm sort of sat next to the DOP, the cinematographer, and the actor is there in front of me, and I've had a discussion with the actor about what the scene is about and what we're doing, and we've already rehearsed some stuff at this point. We roll the cameras, they play the scene, and then, knowing what I wanted from the scene was exactly the same. The cameras will cut, and I go, okay, I know what I want here, so let's communicate that to the actor, and then so on. So all of that, I remember feeling extremely nervous on the first day, but also just knowing that, having that fear in the morning, which is a good fear to have sometimes, but going there and knowing that I sort of knew what I wanted, and I've got all these amazing people around me who are only going to help make this film as best as it possibly can. Production designers, artists, electricians, gaffers, whoever they may be. They're all there to try and make this film as best as they possibly can with their own set of skills. And I think knowing that going in just kind of helped sort of boost me and kind of get me go, okay, yeah, I know I'm the right person to be here. I don't have a huge amount of experience, but I have directed films and I've been making films for many years. So I feel like I'm in the right position I need to be in. I think that... Yeah, and the...
Sorry, no, you go, man. You go.
Well, and also the first day on set was a big dance sequence. So there's a big... The film is about some male dancers, and that we had to shoot a big dance sequence, which took up most of the day, to be honest. And it was shot in a kind of local theatre from me. I managed to get a good deal because, I was still, even though we had this budget, I'm still pulling in all of my favours, because if we now have money to give to places, I want to be able to give that money who have done favours for me in the past. So we shot a local theatre in Ilford called the Kenneth More Theatre. So even though I had all of these kind of cast and crew that I hadn't necessarily worked with before, I was kind of on home turf in a way. And my wife was there, who is a dancer, and she choreographed all the dances as well. And we've worked together for years on various projects. So she was there as well, choreographing the dance, which we've already rehearsed. So actually, after a sort of an hour or two of being on the day, I kind of just settled in, and it kind of felt like the right it felt like my territory, you know. It felt like, and everyone was involved, and everyone was doing their best to make this dance sequence look as cool as possible. And it was really fun. And after the first few days, I learned what everyone was doing. And by the end of it, we were all one big family.
No.
Is this dance the opening dance in the beginning and the opening credits?
It is, yeah. There's
cool.
Yes, there's a kind of sort of dream sequence dance of where the men once were. It kind of plays over the title sequence at the beginning. And we rehearsed it for a few days. Cherie had choreographed the dance and she had taught it to the men. They'd learned it in rehearsals. We had kind of prevised it on our iPhones and shot the whole film, myself and the cinematographer. So then by the time the day came, we knew what it was we wanted. But naturally, it's the first day. The first day on any film set just always overruns and you don't get what you want. But we managed to get the entire dance. I think we had a few other scenes to shoot that day, but they got pushed to other days. But it was really fun. It was a really fun first day on set to just shoot this sort of massive dance sequence on a big kind of a big theatre stage.
You mentioned obviously doing the rehearsals, and I was just thinking, like, with comedy, how hard is it to continue registering whether a joke is working? Because especially, you write it, I assume, when you're writing it, it's an audience of one, although maybe you're thinking about how other people might perceive it, or maybe you're not. Maybe you are just focusing on whether you would find it funny. Would be interesting to know. But then you obviously rehearse it, and there's that immediate feedback of whether you're finding it funny. But then you get on set, and suddenly it's like, well, you've seen this joke 7 times now already, just in the rehearsals, and now you're blocking it through again. How do you know if a joke is working that far in? What are there any sort of tricks or ways to do that, or are you relying on the crew's response as well?
It's a very good question. It's really, really difficult because you're constantly tweaking the gag. You're tweaking the gag in script form, as you said. Then you do it again in rehearsals. Then you do it on set. Then you do it again in the edit. And then you do it again when you're doing sound design. You're still trying to see if there's anything you can pull out of it. Or when you're doing sound design or music, you're still trying to heighten the gag and make sure it works. And ultimately, comedy is timing. It all comes down to timing. And you're right in that it's for an audience of one when you're writing it. So you just have to hope for the best, that you kind of have to trust your instinct in a way. And when I'm writing, I'm always trying to write a film that I want to see. And I'm trying to write a film that my friends would want to see. And that's who I kind of make films for, I suppose. Yes, you're trying to make them for an audience and you want people to laugh in the right places. But some of that, I think, has to come secondary. Like, I'm always trying to make films for an audience.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that audience is always me and friends and family.
Yeah.
And I hope that will translate into a wider audience. And if you can do that, then I think you've done your job correctly, I suppose. Or you've done your job in a way that makes you kind of commercially successful. So then you can go on to make other films. I'm always interested in trying to make commercial projects and not necessarily pieces that might be sort of maybe very art house or might be too self-indulgent. I don't know. I'm just trying to. That's what I'm always trying to make. But it's a good question about the gag, and yeah, you do just have to trust your instincts. And sometimes you'll spend ages writing a gag, and you'll be like, "This is the best joke I've ever written," and then you get on set, and the actor, and you've done it in rehearsal, and it seems okay, and then you get it on set, and it just doesn't work. Something's not working. Something's off. The performance is off. The angle is off. Whatever it may be, and it's your job there to then try and fix it. To then not go, well, that one's not working, let's move on to the next one. Like, you have to get something from it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it comes down to the performer, or it comes down to the direction. There can be a million reasons why it doesn't work, but usually your performers, if you've got the right performers there with you, it'll be the performer who will kind of lift it off of the page and make it much better than you've ever done. And when you sit back and you watch it with an audience, every time now that I go and watch Members Club with an audience, I'm kind of watching it, but I've seen it 200 times. I don't need to see it anymore. But I'm trying to see if people are laughing in the right places.
Yeah.
And thankfully, so far, people are pretty much laughing in the right places. And what's funny is sometimes the bigger laughs will come from the jokes that you just didn't spend any time writing at all. They'll come from something that the actor says, oh, what about if I say this line instead of that line? And you go, that's great. Yeah, do that. That would be really funny.
Yeah.
and and they do that, and then that gets a huge laugh, and you're like, I didn't spend ages writing that. That was the actor. That was a great example of inviting brilliant actors onto set and doing your thing for you.
Yeah. And they just sort of, it's everyone collaborating, contributing just to take it to that next level.
Yeah, take it to that next level. But you're right in what you said as well. It is about trying to make the crew laugh. And I think that's for actors as well. That's the actor's job sometimes, is to try and make the people in the room laugh. And if people are kind of hiding in their laughter and stuff, the moment the first AD yells cut and the room bursts into laughter, then you know that you've got something. You know you've got something golden then. And I do listen to that as well. If we cut and no one's really laughed, something's not right, and you have to fix it. So it's a tricky thing. It's a really, really tricky thing.
I love that feeling of trying to hold in a laugh on set, and you just know it sort of really works.
I think it's Carol Burnett who says the difference between like a comedian and an actor is a comedian says funny things and an actor says things funny. So that's probably why. Just the nothing line just makes people bust a gut.
I think that's really true. Yeah, and that's a lot of the reason why lots of comedy actors who are known as comedy actors for many years go on to do like serious stuff, and they go, "Oh wow, well, their actor's really good. They're really good at serious things as well." It's because comedy it's really difficult. Comedy, it's really hard, particularly for an actor as well. And that was my background. I started as a comedy actor before I moved into film, and it was very tricky, and it still is very tricky. So, and I kind of I have that shorthand then as well with the actors, knowing that I never keep that as a secret. I'm proud of doing that stuff many, many years ago, and that allows me to have kind of certain conversations with the actors that maybe a director who wasn't an actor is unable to have. You know?
Yeah. Mark, just before you go, I was just going to ask our questions we always ask, which is, what were you up to during your teenage years that maybe ended up being useful for what it is you do now? And oh my god, I can't remember what the other question is. Advice you would give to that teenage self. I completely forgot the questions we always ask.
What was I doing? Well, do you know what? So one thing the listener doesn't need to know, or does need to know, is that I'm a bit older. So I'm sort of late 30s now. So when I was a teenager, when I was a teenager, it was like the birth of camera phones as well. So I used to have these like really terrible, like old camera phones, like an old Sony Ericsson. And it was just at the forefront of being able to like make things on phones with really, really tiny megapixels. So I was, even from a young age and from that kind of teenage years, I was making stuff on these phones. I was shooting like little mini sketches with friends. They weren't great. And I remember I shot this sketch with my cat on this, and I edited it all on my little Sony Ericsson phone, which was terrible. And the pixels were like 480. I don't know. It was really, really low pixel rate. Yeah. So I was doing that in my teenage years whilst I was kind of finishing school and then going on to college to study acting. And then I didn't really start moving into film until about 10 years later. So even though I was doing those kind of little inceptions then, I think they were the kind of seeds that kind of eventually moved me into being behind the camera instead of in front of the camera. Because when I was in my 20s, I was trying to get auditions, but I couldn't get the jobs that I wanted to get. So me and friends would then shoot and make films. So I kind of taught myself how to edit and how to direct and how to hold a camera and where the sound should go. So I kind of learned a little bit of every department. Mm-hmm. So it meant that we could make our own sketches and I could edit them together. And then actually by doing that, I then started to realize that, this is what I enjoy more than actually being in front of the camera and being an actor and stuff. So that kind of led me. And I think that all does stem from those little terrible kind of Sony Ericsson video phone sketches that I did with my cat. Yeah. They were all there the whole time. I was like, this is what you do. Yeah, and exactly 240p, and just getting that cut right.
How Nolan intended.
Yes, yeah. Making sure the cut is there, and it's all the same principle, right? You can shoot it on a terrible phone, or you can shoot it on an old cine camera from the 1920s. The principle is still the same of where the cut and the gag is still landing. And so I think those were the little seeds. The only difference is that as I got older, I was able then to not be a one person and doing it as a one person on my phone. I was then very grateful to have an entire kind of team of people around me, which always makes a project 10 times better.
Mm-hmm. And what advice would you give to that teenage self if you could go back and whisper into his ear?
I would. I mean, there is so much advice. But the main one that I kind of speak to young people about now, and I still stand by, is that I think the best way to. I think what I would have loved to have done, and I still think about it now, and it's not too late. I'm not super old, but I think the best way to enter the film industry now is to learn a trade, because I feel like I would have loved to have. Instead of being a kind of just knowing a little bit of every department, which is a really, really useful thing to have, I think I would have loved to have focused on one thing, and maybe be a kind of cinematographer or a production designer or a prop maker or something like that, and then try and get into the industry that way. Because I've solely set myself up as a writer-director, which I love, and it's my job and it's what I do. But being a writer-director kind of keeps you on a project for 2-3 years at a time, and then if you're lucky enough, you'll get to go on and do another project. Whereas if you learn a trade in the film industry, you get to work on every different type of set. You get to bounce between jobs. All of those people who shot Members Club with me a year and a half ago, they finished after 5-6 weeks, and then they went on to work on another set because they had learned a trade. So now my kind of the piece of advice I always give to young people is choose a trade, and you might not know what it is straight away, but I think pick a trade and stick to that trade, and then you will be known as that person, and you'll get hired as that person, and you'll get paid very well to do that trade, whether it be an editor, a cinematographer, a soundy, production designer. And then whilst you're doing that, then you can work on being your writer-director as well.
Yeah, for sure. Mark, that's amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I feel like there's another podcast in us at some point. We'll get.
Yeah, we can talk about all of those sales agents and distributors. The scam. Cut that bit out. They'll come after me. No, I've loved talking to you guys. I'm a big fan of Young Film Academy, so thank you very much.
Oh no, thank you. And yeah, we'll speak to you soon. Take care, Mark. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
So, with Mark, like, what was really great to hear from him is, like, he did not, he wasn't waiting for a gatekeeper. He didn't wait for the BFI to give him money, and he didn't go to film school. He basically was, a self-taught filmmaker who does not have a filmmaking background at all. He comes from theater and doing comedy. And, like, he was harkening back all the way to, when he was a teenager. So, not to make Mark sound old, over 20 years ago. Over 20 years ago.
But I'm going to do it.
He had, like he said, he had like flip phones and like Sony Ericsson phones, which I'm not from this country. I don't even know what that phone looks like. But he's like, it was just a really bad image quality, but he could make movies with it.
Yeah.
And just, he said, whether you're making it on a camera that's built today, or a flip phone from 20 years ago, or from a film camera from the 1920s, it's still the same thing. It's still just, setting your shot and getting the lighting right, and just filling the frame with something, and then just making a film happen like that.
I'm just showing you Sony Ericsson. Orange. I always remember it being quite a big part of it.
That just looks like a brick.
Yeah. Oh, it's from the old school days, man. Like, they had cameras, but like barely. It was quite a thing in sort of the early noughties. But this is the thing, it's being resourceful. It's saying, okay, I've got this and this available to me, and I won't let the lack of X, Y, and Z, because I've got A, B, and C available. I won't let any of that stop me from telling stories and making stuff and developing my skills.
Yeah.
Because, as you were saying, it is comedy, it is timing, it is all the things that constitute a good joke are not going to be held back from a lack of equipment.
Yeah.
Because the joke will still come through. I mean, you'd have to film it on a potato for it to be, so impossible to see or hear. Obviously, if your sound is inaudible or deeply problematic, then I think you're going to have problems. But for the most part, I would say it's like, it's just using what you have and stuff. And I think that same energy and that same mentality applies from back then, but also to today. Obviously, people don't have Sony Ericssons today, but if anything, they've got something way better that definitely will not get in the way of your ideas and will not stop you from creating something that is maybe funny or entertaining. So it's really just the ball's in your court these days, I would say.
Yeah, and and also with making short films, you can make whatever you want for no money, and you can make mistakes for free, and it won't cost you in the long run. Whereas if somebody gives you money and you make a mistake, that's going to cost you money. Whereas, and then also like when you have your phone, you can previs what you want to do too. So you don't have to have an external monitor or anything like that. You can just strictly have it on your phone, go back and then instantly play back and watch it and see how it looks.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And even if you think, okay, maybe this idea wasn't as good as the last one, I feel like every single film you're going to improve in many ways. It's going to feel like a step up, just by and you're going to learn so much from it. I'd say like never try to avoid the whole mental pitfall of, oh, is this going to be as good as my last film? It almost doesn't matter. Just make it the best film it can be and keep moving forward, because you're going to be a better editor, you're going to be a better director, you're going to be a better cinematographer at the end of it if you're doing all those things. And I recommend that you do all those things at the start. At least to give yourself a basic understanding of all of them so that you can communicate really well with people that maybe want to specialize in those fields.
And you also had another really great point is like, learn a trade, learn to be a prop master or something, and you can still try to be doing writing, directing as well. But he said, I wrote and directed the film, and then it took 3 years. So I had another job directing film, but I had to write. Whereas people who he hired, which were just his friends, being a prop master, a cinematographer, or a soundy, the moment their 15-day shoot was over, they were able to go on another job, a 15-day shoot that they didn't get paid for, but they got more experience doing something. So then they're able to go to another job, and it's a lot of times, especially behind the camera, not so much for actors, but everybody behind the camera. It's about who you meet and who you know. That say, hey, they might not give you a job, but like, oh, I know a soundy. I know somebody is a good. They don't have to be phenomenal at sound, but they can be good at sound, and then you can get better to be great at sound. Whereas with filmmaking, it's Sight and Sound magazine. That's the two most important things. The most important thing is sound first, because if it sounds awful, then you're not want to watch it. Unless you do what I do is I'll watch short films with no audio on because it's a little bit of time, and then you can just see how the camera's moving in the image.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I said don't film on a potato, but it'd be worse. It would be worse if you sound recorded on a potato.
Definitely do not sound record on a potato. Don't sound record on a hubcap. Don't sound record on your mother's shoe. Yeah.
Although they probably would pick up the vibrations and stuff.
The hubcap probably would. Yeah. Get a good reverb out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have very good science of how sound works, but it's sort of...
Well, it's a wave. It's a wave.
It's a wave thing, isn't it? Yeah. It's all quite layman's and stuff when you delve into it to some degree. But it's now just technology sort of sits on top of it, and it's far more, I suppose, complicated. I don't know. This is a weird tangent.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't sound record with your mum's shoe.
Exactly not. Yeah.
Here. And don't let things, stand in your way. Just go out there and really, really do it. Duke, I've got a question.
Yeah, what's up?
I've got a question. This is from Pierre, who's 17 from the Ivory Coast.
So it's a writing question. Okay, I thought you were like one of my expertise on something.
I mean, you could maybe give it a go.
Okay, let's hear it.
First, if you want. He wants to know, as a teenager... He's looking to make his first feature film. How much money do you think I will need in order to make the film?
I would say no money. I wouldn't be trying to make a feature film right now at 17.
Just don't do it.
I would say, if anything, just try to make a lot of short films to build up your reel, make music videos for people you know, or go record live events and try it, because then all you have to do is just film it, get their permission, then you film it, and then you can make something with that as well. You can make, even if they don't pay you, you can make a lot of highlight of a day, and then you can say, hey, I'm a fan of what you guys did. This is something I made on the day, would you like to show it? And then it's being shown to people, and that might lead to other work. Because again, you're behind camera, and you can lead to something else, whether it's stills photography, or it's just being a cinematographer, or maybe doing BTS on a film.
Yeah, yeah. I've got two thoughts on this. one, just on that vocational side of things, I think it is useful having another skill. Obviously I edit and stuff as well, and it does mean that you're on set meeting people, and it does present its whole own roster of opportunities that you wouldn't get if you're just spending time in your bedroom working on your next script as a writer director. Meeting people and building those connections is such an important part of the process that you shouldn't neglect, and having a certain skill is very useful. Now, bear in mind, if you're a runner, there's a time and place to tell people that you're also a writer-director. And almost every runner is also secretly a writer-director. So just bear in mind that you might be one of 20 runners on a shoot and everyone wants to tell everyone about their idea. So just be mindful and careful, focus on building the connections first, and then subsequently tell them about your film.
Wait until they ask.
Opportunity.
Yeah. What are you doing after this? What do you have coming up? What are you doing next? And
exactly. But in terms of making a feature, my advice would be, ultimately, you don't need any money. You could just meet up with friends on weekends and make a feature over a series of weekends. That's how Christopher Nolan made his first film, Following.
That's how Mumblecore happened.
There you go.
Joe Schwanberg and the Duplass brothers were just doing just nights and weekends. I think there's even a film called Nights and Weekends because that's how it was filmed, just on nights and over the weekend when nobody had to work their day job. And out of that came Joe Schwanberg, the Duplass brothers, Greta Gerwig. She started as a writer and an actress in that movement.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. But that's very cool. But the point is that whilst that is you can do it. You absolutely can do that as long as you have a team of dedicated people. The younger you are, Pierre, at your age, 17, there is a high probability that you're working with other people that are also teenagers. And they will. It's very unlikely that they will be quite as passionate as you. Obviously, if you come to summer camp courses, summer camp and meet other, YFA people, you might find people that are equally passionate. But also, when you're a teenager, you're less in control of your own destiny a little bit. You have family holidays and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of reasons of things that could happen that crop up that keep getting in the way of you making your film. What I'm saying is, you might have an easier time post-university at making a feature. So it's not that you need money, it's that you need to meet the right people and have the right team. And obviously an unfinished film is no film. Whilst you may learn stuff and you will grow from it, so it's not going to be completely wasted, but having a really good short is probably better for your CV than a half-shot feature. So just be really mindful about where you put your time in terms of having results to show for your work, alongside the skills improvements. And maybe wait till you've got the right size team of committed people that they need to know what the next sort of 9 months of their life is going to look like. You could start working on the film and then people go away to university and you're like, oh, that's fine because we'll finish it next summer when everyone's back. But then everyone comes back and actually they've got plans, or their heart's changed, or maybe they've found something else that they really love and want to focus on. You see what I'm saying?
Another thing is, and this is off the top of my head, reverse engineer it. If you say you have family pets, film your family pets doing something, and then you already have the footage, then make a story out of it, and then do voiceovers for your pets.
That's a great shout.
Yeah, because then that doesn't cost you anything. And that doesn't waste any time. And then your dogs are always enthusiastic about whatever you do.
Yeah. It's write a list of the things you have available, and then your film should cost you nothing, basically.
That's why a lot of people...
Nolan,
go ahead.
I was going to say, in Following, a lot of the time people attack other people with hammers in that film, because you can buy a hammer, whereas they said buying, blank firing guns, not very easy to do. Now, nowadays, you can add fake muzzle flashes, much easier. But... you just got to be mindful. That's what I'm saying.
And then, I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, on that note, I think that was a very thorough and useful answer. So we hope that was useful, Pierre. I hope that was simultaneously inspiring and guiding, and not too downbeat of an answer.
Yeah.
But we want you to maximize your time and make the feature at the right time, and keep growing as a filmmaker as well.
I remember what I was going to say. That's why a lot of people, when they will make their first films, they'll make like a stop animation movie with Lego characters, because you don't move the camera at all. You just move the pieces just a little bit, and then you make, it's usually 24 frames a second makes 1 second. So you have 24 still shots of whatever is happening. And then if you want to just do 75 shots, that's going to be, just about 3 seconds of a story. And you can make a lot happen in 75 shots.
Yeah, 100%. Great advice. Thank you, Duke. Thank you for joining me.
No problem. My pleasure.
As our guest host. This has been wonderful. And guys, we'll see you in the new one. Don't forget to send your questions to podcast@youngfilmacademy.co.uk, and we will answer them on a relevant episode like this. Okay, perfect. See you guys soon. Bye.